I don't think it's necessary to forgive unless it's been earned. Recently I've seen somebody crying online. I think it shows great sensitivity and respect for your own sensitivity. And crying is a form of what pain looks like. And we all feel pain. So I wanted to address pain in this video because I've been recently undergoing some pain. I had to put my dog down after being with him for 12 years. So I've had to deal with the pain. One of the ways that people always say to deal with pain is to forgive. And I never quite got that. Why was forgiveness necessary? I mean, I don't feel I had played a part in the pain, other than experiencing what I think most people would experience from something that causes pain. And the result is pain. It's no secret. The secret is how to deal with it, and everybody deals with it differently. And a lot of people say forgive, and I say, if I didn't cause the pain, what do I need to forgive? It's kind of like respect or love. They're earned. They're not arbitrarily said and then done. People make mistakes, so you have to forgive them when they're willing to understand the mistake that they've made. But if they don't understand the mistake that they've made, I'm not sure that there's anything to forgive. I'm not saying you need to carry that pain around, but forgiveness might not be the right answer. So to forgive somebody, you are righting the wrong, and you are understanding the complexity of it and why that person did that to you, and then you are continuing along the same path with them like nothing happened. So the perceived wrong becomes a right as you move forward once you forgive. The best way you can deal with pain, if the perpetrator of that pain isn't willing to help you with your pain, then you need to make the decision not to forgive and to put your brain power in another direction. So it's kind of like, I see it like a PVC pipe, and they bend. And if a root comes, it's going to forgive the root because it understands the relationship that they have together. So it's going to bend for the root and forgive it. I think tolerance is interesting because that comes into play with forgiveness. So you have to be tolerant and bend to things that push you off your path, inconsistencies to what you would like on your path. But when something really comes and really tries to whack you off your path, I don't think you need to continue on that path and find some forgiveness for that whack. I think you need to point that whack out and say, hey, there's a whacker. And then find another direction to go in, something that will help you gain some distance away from that pain. When we forgive, we understand the intrusion, and we tolerate and compensate and understand the partnership. Now, letting go is something different. It doesn't require forgiveness. It requires moving the brain into another direction. It requires finding a new path, changing thought patterns and changing physical routines, and finding new things to take you away from the pain. But it doesn't have to include forgiving what was damaging, because it was damaging, and it's time to find a new path if that damage would continue to damage. I think that there needs to be a point where you don't forgive and you move on. You find where there isn't pain, and you move to a less painful area. But you don't have to forgive to move to a less painful area. You just move to a less painful area. What is unforgivable is just unforgivable. I always hear it takes two to tango, but that's not true. I think a dance is constructive, and if you're building something, it takes two to build things, creative, positive things. But to destroy and to tear down, I think it only takes one person. When it comes to destruction, you really only need one in the dance to ruin it. Both parties are not always creating disorder. Positive construction and cooperation, 2, and tearing down and destruction and separation, 1. I don't think the other person is responsible for the destruction of that tango necessarily. And also in political forgiveness. I don't think to not talk about politics and not talk about religion because they're difficult. I think you need to be tolerant and understanding and try to gain an understanding, but to turn a blind eye and forgive something that is destructive is just allowing the destruction to continue. It could be like a passageway or relief to bad behavior. A criminal mind would be really interested in having forgiveness be a big part of culture, so that they can continue to create inequalities and things that hurt people and preach forgiveness as a way of life. And if you don't forgive, you suffer. It kind of makes that person who's forgiving atrocities or pain, puts them in a bubble. Forgiveness is a reaction to a crime, not a self-fulfilling action about independent feeling. Forgiveness can also have a religious nuance, and forgiving horrible things that happen and turning away and saying, well, I'd like to focus on more positive things when those negative things still exist. So I think it's really interesting the people that are stubborn and the people that push to activate and not forgive some of the bad things that we see happening, because those are really the people that are pushing forward, the non-forgivers. I say don't put one who's worked to understand the mistakes that they've made and worked for the forgiveness of somebody else in the same boat as somebody who's done nothing to understand the pain that they've created. Forgiveness is not charity. To turn forgiveness into charity, I think, is an insult to those who confess and seek restitution. Forgiveness in the mind of a destroyer is a good thing and a gift, as it helps them avoid consequences of their actions. The perpetrator thrives in an environment where forgiveness comes without effort. Corruption wants forgiveness without confession, or admittance of wrong, or genuine seeking of restitution. Forgiveness keeps people quiet and shameful for their victimhood, while finding dismissals for wrongdoings that have happened to them. It's basically tolerance of corruption without remorse from the perpetrator. Forgive and they will continue their destruction without lesson. I think forgiveness is earned through motion and action. I don't think letting go is like ignoring or reprogramming or obliterating a memory. Letting go and forgiving are actions which require work and energy. Let's point it out and not say, hey, let's forgive it and look at the victim and let's work on how we can help the victim. Like the victim's own way of having to deal with what they got to deal with. And I'm actually kind of more interested in looking at the perpetrator of the pain. Those girls are never looked at. It's always the result of what they've done and not what they've done. The perpetrator, I'm more interested in the perpetrator than the victim. The victim, I get it. They got to deal with it. But I want to know about the perpetrator, because the perpetrator kind of like knows what they're doing is shitty and just continues to do it. So, fuck the victim.